Middleman.
Hello and welcome to the Middleman of Jurors. It's a fresh episode here. I am Juror Cyril Abaku, and of course, joining me today is the juror from Rabbi, Evans Ufelu, who will let out a cry on the need to unpack the future of our dear country. I will be examining the politics of border reopening. If you're ready, so we are.
Middleman.
My case, politics of border reopening. Two major scandals that could easily have been the stuff of fiction are unfolding in Nigeria today. Scandals normally don't look good on any country. They are bad for the optics of national image making. But Nigeria, as always, has an exception for every norm. First is the abduction epidemic ravaging the north. Following that are the unknown spirits padding the budget and the potted revelations that have followed it, if you like. Following that also is an economy in a tailspin. And after that, the number of suicides increasing by the day, and so many more. One then wonders if anyone indeed spares a thought for our dear country. Maybe the president does. He has ordered the reopening of the nation's land and air borders with Niger Republic. Actually, all sanctions imposed after the coup have been lifted. The president has also approved the lifting of financial and economic sanctions against Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Mali. In all of these countries, the leaders are military leaders, actually. But the question is, what is the strategic advantage of either shutting or reopening the borders? Which is better for Nigeria? Here's my verdict. Leadership must learn to be strategic, consultative, accommodating, and open to listening to every shade of opinion. Haphazard policy making will only land us in a ditch. I so rule.
Well, I think this is a fantastic case. What I see running through this case is that these countries in Africa that have taken on military regime by choice or by obstruction of the constitution.
Yes.
And the last one, which is Niger Republic, all the sanctions have been lifted against them and our borders between them open. Now, for me, this does not look like the president have a choice because if you look at what has transpired before now, even all the sanctions imposed on them, they were not ready to abide by any. They called the president, in fact, they asked the ECOWAS to go to hell and have made comments, and have even some of the countries therein have threatened to pull out from ECOWAS.
And form their own group.
Yes, ECOWAS was practically losing it completely. And so I don't think the decision is just that of the Nigerian president alone. 2 days back, 2 days back, he had a meeting with former President Babangida, who was the first Nigerian military president by his nomenclature. And I believe there was consultation. Yes, I believe there was consultation, but the wisdom in it that countries are involved in military coup and all sanctions are lifted just like that with no proper reason. And is it to embrace them and cheer them up for wrongdoing, or to keep the sanction as spelled out in the treaty, the ECOWAS treaty? Because this for me look like you beat a child with your right hand and you use your left hand to bring the child closer. In this case, we have treaties, we have sanctions spelled out in the ECOWAS.
Without evidence of repentance.
Yes, there's no evidence of repentance. In fact, the last time we heard about Niger was that they were issuing threats against any country or any president who will, undermine the institution of the new government, military government in the country. And they were saying all that, okay? They were even, at some point, talking about how Russia is now their ally, mentioning Putin as a big brother. Okay? So if you have that kind of interplay, then the next thing you are doing, you are taking off sanctions, you are opening border. Are you stretching a hand of friendship? Or what exactly is the motive behind this action? We need to know. ECOWAS is completely failing in its ability to put the country together. So, like you asked, which is better for Nigeria? Because Nigeria is now is at the spotlight. Which is better, to have our borders shut down or to have them open? Which is exactly better for us? I think that the same ECOWAS treaty that made provision for sanction where there's violation in the West African coast, the same treaty also created trade within the West African. That is why if you go to most of the West African countries, their passports, you will see the ECOWAS, which means by that treaty, we could go into any of the African countries freely. So it is only when you have issues of violation in terms of military takeover and others that there is not a restriction here and therefore the country is so affected. But the truth is that in Africa, how many countries are left in the democratic dispensation? How many countries? You have about 4 already with military regime, right? 4 or 5 with military regime, okay? So how many is now left in West Africa that have democracy, and how well is that democracy working, including that of Nigeria? Yeah. Because they have asked us to that we don't even have the moral rectitude to tell them not to indulge because of sovereignty. There's no way military rule will become popular government model. But there's a sense in which if democracy is failing consistently,
it becomes an invitation.
Yes,
a direct invitation.
A direct invitation, because the military will want to do something. And that is how it started. I mean, the first military coup in Africa took place in Togo. And that was how we acquired that system of government.
That was where the apple was eaten in the Garden of Eden. That's where the apple was eaten. So their eyes became open to good and evil. So the soldiers also knew that they could become president.
Yes, they could become president, and they could also undermine the larger society and do whatever it is they want to do and get away with it. So Africa is a case that requires a lot of commentaries. And much more than commentary is that Africa needs interventions. Because even these countries that military have taken over, give them the next 10 years, 5, 10 years, you will see the rot.
They won't be any better.
Yes, they will see the rot that will follow.
So the problem, does it then become a question of the quagmire of the fact that we're not able to identify who we are and the kind of government that work for us? Because, I mean, in the case I also alluded to the fact that Nigeria is dealing with some scandals that, on a norm, people shouldn't remain in power. You either resign or you're impeached or something. How is it possible that there is a question of trillions of naira being smuggled into a budget? Nobody's even calling for a probe. Then you have the question of, I mean, all sorts of scandals are just flying everywhere. And what they want us to take it that life could just go on. If this is democracy, why does anybody need democracy?
Yes, like I said before, we have painted, in fact, we have created for ourselves a kind of democracy that will engulf us all if we don't do something about it now and right now. The democracy that allows for secrecy, pardon of the Commonwealth, okay? I don't really care what this National Assembly are talking about when they're saying, it is these funds and the first line charge of certain institutions. These institutions, their budgetary allocation is not spelled out in the national budget.
According to whose law?
You see, according to corruption. According to corruption. So now when you say these things are not spelled out in the budget, what do you mean? What then is a budget? a budget is a statement of intention that captures what the government intends to spend in a one-year cycle, and a breakdown of the institutions, parastatals and MDAs with what government intends to spend and the project thereof. So if you now have an institution where it's not spread out, they say the National Assembly own is also there. I listened to Solomon Yayi, who said that, Senator Solomon Yayi, who said that that of the National Assembly is also part of it. But of course, you know the National Assembly, you know that you have this social number of senators, this social number of House of Rep members, the social number of staff and whatever it is.
Personnel cost.
Yeah, so how come that you do not put all together to give us a net, a total, and then put it in the budget? You see, because if you put that net total and put it in the budget, it becomes illegal when you overspend.
Yeah.
So what they do is to leave it flexible, so that at no point will it be illegal.
Is that still a budget then?
It's not a budget. That's what I'm saying. It's not a budget because you see, the consultant, I commend that consultant who came about that 3 trillion naira plus. I commend him because what he did was he came with an open mind and said, okay, this is the budget. Having gone through the entire budget and having made the calculations thereof, I am seeing that there is also an amount that is not reflected, but it's in there. So what do you expect him to do? In the National Assembly, they're on the defensive. They are now the one explaining to us what that is. So they should keep explaining, but the truth is that it is inferable that there is corruption in that budget.
Well, how the National Assembly will keep on explaining and wouldn't have become a judge in their own case is what remains to be found. I think that if anything should happen, the matter should be referred to a competent third party that should investigate and then tell us what the issues are. But that's all for this segment. When we return, Barrister Evans Ofeli will be asking the National Assembly yet again to unpad the future of Nigeria. Now, that's in a bit. Stay with us.
Middleman.
Welcome back to the middleman of jurors. My case. It is human nature to love one's country without any specific reason, despite it having acquired a bad reputation in the world. Unpadding the future of a country. The term Nigerian Budget Padding Assembly refers to the act of inserting unauthorized expenditures or projects into the national budget in Nigeria. Budget padding is a controversial practice that involves inflating the proposed budget by adding unnecessary or inflated costs to benefit specific individuals or groups. The Nigerian Budget Padding Assembly gained attention in 2016 when a former chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation, Abdul Mumin Jibrin, accused some members of the Assembly of padding the 2016 budget with unauthorized projects. Jibrin alleged that billions of naira were illegally added to the budget, which resulted in wasteful spending and hindered the country's developments. The case gained significant media coverage and led to the investigation by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and other anti-corruption agencies. Several lawmakers were subsequently invited for questioning, and some were even suspended. Budget padding remains a persistent issue in Nigeria. Critics argue that it undermines the country's development by diverting resources away from more essential projects and services. Transparency and accountability in the budgetary process, as well as the ongoing legislative reform, are crucial in addressing the challenge and ensuring effective utilization of public funds. My verdict: The current allegation of budget padding of the National Assembly made by Senator Ningi, representing Bauchi Central Senatorial District, must be investigated. Whether he has reclined from the allegation so made or not. Budget padding has been a long-standing criminal practice of parliament in Nigeria, which must be stopped. Let the citizens unite and call for the end of budget padding. I shall go to Rabbi again.
Jordan from Rabbi, this is a great case
Yes.
because it resonates with an ongoing, unfolding, if you like, unraveling scandal in the country. Although one wonders whether it will be swept under the carpet of time, the way all that scandals have happened. After 2 weeks of making the headlines, it becomes an old issue. We've had better, nothing seems to have come out of it. We've had several ones. To think that that people have been kidnapped, close to 1,000 persons have been kidnapped in the past 1 week or so, and we have an equally unprecedented scandal that is dragging headlines with it, just shows where we are. But coming to this issue particularly, this is not a natural disaster. The president brought the appropriation bill to the National Assembly. They looked at it. They passed it. Apparently, what the president signed and what the National Assembly approved are two different things. Now, somebody who summoned the courage to come and say they raise the flag to say something wrong has gone on, rather than come up to say, okay, what went wrong? Financial regulators or financial law enforcement, come and look at what this person is saying. You have the EFCC, you have the budget offices, you have ICPC, you have the police, and so even DS and so on. All of them are quiet, eerily quiet. Rather, the people who are so accused are the ones who came together to suspend the person who is raising an accusation after hiring what's it called, a consultant to go a document to say something is actually wrong with the budget. I just think that where Nigerian leaders have put corruption is beyond what we think. Sometimes we think they mainly state policy. I think it's more than that. They worship corruption actually. Corruption has become an idol. There's a shrine.
It's the biggest industry in Nigeria.
They worship it. Maybe they pour wine into it. But they worship this thing because the way they've approached this matter just so that they're not in any mood, ready, even a debate where they suspended Lingi.
Yes.
How can anybody sincerely say that the A's and the nays who really had it?
There was no A's, and what the Senate president did was he just said the A's, the nays, and the A's have it. In fact, the voice of those who said, they are for it, and those that said they are against it were more like equal. But he took the other way. You see, what they have done to Ningi was like what Pontius Pilate and Herod did to Jesus Christ when they were confused as to jurisdiction.
Yes.
On who should try him when he had been accused of blasphemy. Herod looked at him and mocked him. First of all, Pontius Pilate sent him away because he said, okay, he was born in Bethlehem. He's from the tribe of Judah. He's a Nazareth, so let him go to Herod. Herod looked at him and said, no. He was born in Bethlehem. He's from the tribe of Judah. He's here, take him back to Pilate. That's exactly what they did. Because when they just came out, they did a summary trial. For someone who have raised an issue, how be it on camera, he raised an issue. What is expected is that they will commence investigation or debate on the issue. You understand? Now, he was pushed to a point where he even denied the interview he delivered as a result of the fact that the whole house were against him. So he was pushed to. That is why people are running around for him right now. Okay, so I do not think it is the right thing to do. I know that there's a standing rule in the house where inappropriate behavior and conduct, the house can suspend the senator. But you see, there's nowhere in the Constitution where it is stated that senator should be suspended. Because if you suspend the senator, you suspend the entire constituency he represents.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is not the right thing to do. If we backtrack to history, there was a time that Senator no, then he was at the House of Assembly, Dino Melai. The same issue of money, when he raised the issue against the then Speaker of the House of Assembly, the Meji Bankole, and he was suspended. He went to court. The court ruled that the House members have no right under the law to suspend a fellow House member, but they are all equal.
Yes.
You understand? Not too long ago, the last one we had back in history is that of Omo Agege, when it was alleged that he led thugs into the chambers and they stole the mace. He was suspended. The same thing happened. Okay? So I don't know why we're still going that path. Is it the suspension the answer to the question he raised?
He raised, exactly.
If you don't have anything to hide, why did you shut down the debate immediately?
Or even sorry to cut in, even if you consider his action inappropriate,
Yes.
the matter he has raised there to is not something that should send down the camera because it's weighty.
Yeah.
Suspend him, but also do.
Yeah, I listened to Solomon Yayi when he came with a damage control where he was saying that there are some MDAs, some ministries that their budget is not specified, okay, in the budget, so that, and these MDAs, their funds in the first line charge. Therefore, by the time you put everything together, it's not three. You see that contradiction? See the contradiction? He said if you put everything together, it amounts to 3 trillion, right? So you know that it amounts to 3 trillion, you did not write it. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
So does it
Because
mean,
why didn't you put the figure? So a budget is a statement of intention.
which means he's admitting that such money was actually put in the budget?
Yes, now he's admitting that now, because now he's admitting it under a covert conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he's now saying that this same ministry that you say their figures cannot be specified in the constitution, in the budget. How come you know the amount?
Mm-hmm.
That if you put all of them together, it amounts to 3 trillion plus.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the amount, I didn't write it there.
Mm-hmm.
What is budget?
Mm-hmm.
Budget is a statement of intention where you capture all expenditures for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you know those expenditure, you have them inside in your mind, but you not put a peg on them because they are on first line charge and they are statutory.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the National Assembly have a lot to tell us. And the worst part of this is that the citizens' docility over this matter and the constituency so suspended. Because for me, I think it's the constituency that was suspended. They don't have representation. They have South today.
And for 3 months.
Yes.
It's longer than the
So,
sentence.
so I think civil society should rise up to the standard and make a demand that this case should be investigated, whether or not, as I said in my case, whether or not Ningi had reclined from what he said or he has withdrew whatever he said, that matter must be investigated because it is a vista. Okay, you cannot leave it like that. If we go the whole hog and find out that, oh, it was an error, it was a mistake, fine. But if we go down and discover that this thing is padding, the same old sickness that we have in our budget, then the EFCC can get in and do the needful.
But my other concern here is this. The question, because what we are told, what Ningi said a lot of things, and he did say that the president was implementing 2 budgets. So the fact that, the Senate, who gave the Senate authorization to add that 3 million extra figure? Because if it didn't come from the presidency, somebody had to answer and concur that money be put to that to the tune of 3 trillion. So is the president aware that such amount of money was added to what the Senate passed for him to sign? So, because the monies are appropriated by the national and spent by the executive. So it opens up a lot of questions. Hopefully, but maybe the next time we come here, they would have sat down to properly look at the matter, and that the presidency would have a better defense than to say that what they gave the national assembly was what they signed was what they believed to have been the true document.
And those defending this should stand through and defend it through
to the end.
They should not pull out from, because now Senator Bamidele Akpayemi is making a case for Akpabio. He just said that there's a flaw by some members to remove Akpabio. That if you go back to history, you look at how the Southerners or the Southeasterners who have occupied that position, how they were all removed from Evans and Wareham to down. He did a projection that the target is that there's conspiracy, there's a coup somewhere to have Akpabio removed. You see how we play in this country. There is a case, somebody has just blown a whistle. You have not practically looked at the truth or otherwise of that whistle. You are now creating a conspiracy theory around somewhere that some people have gathered to want to remove Akpabio. Doing that, you will now divert the attention of the public to the main issue under reference, so that we'll start to talk about that conspiracy that does not exist, in my opinion. You understand? So I think that I keep saying this, the public, that they are doing nothing about it.
And going as far as from the Southern Senators Forum.
Yes, going as far as from the Southern Senators Forum. I think the public, you see, because we're talking about our Commonwealth. We're talking about a budget that is meant to cater for the need of the entire country, that is now in question. So who should take this matter more serious than any other person is the Nigerian society, Nigerian public. But they are preoccupied with survival. They are not saying much apart from few analysts who are talking about it. So we hereby call on CSOs, the public, students, union, and all the necessary and appropriate institutions to set out on this journey to ensure that this matter is not swept under the carpet. So that's our offering on this episode of the program. Till we come your way again, kindly like the video and leave a comment as you subscribe to our page on YouTube at Enterprise TV 7. Bye for now. Signing out.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.